Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the New Balance Fresh Foam X 1080 version 13 versus the new version, which is the 1080 version 14. Now, as always, the purpose of these videos is to really help you make a decision. If you are someone who wears the 1080 version 13, the hope is to help you figure out, is the 1080 version 14 worth upgrading to or not? And if you're interested in either one of these, helping you make a decision about which one might work better for you as an individual. So let's get into this shoe. This is New Balance's premium neutral daily training shoe. The version 13 is the softest shoe I think I've ever put on my feet. Version 14 was the update to that, which might look somewhat similar, but has actually changed quite a bit in terms of its performance and feel and fit. That said, there's still some similarities I want to talk about, but also get you an idea of what's kind of changed between these and how to help you make a decision about which way might be better for you. As always, let's talk about specs. So my size 10 is what I took the measurements in. So over in version 13, men's size 10 is weighing in at 9.9 ounces, or about 276 grams. My size 10 over in the 1080 version 14 weighs 10.4 ounces, or about 296 grams. So definitely a little weight increase, and I think I'll explain why in just a second. Stack height is exactly the same. It's 38 millimeters in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for a 6 millimeter drop. So despite a little weight increase, it's still the lightest premium daily training shoe on the market, and still definitely one of the softer ones out there, assuming you don't want a super foam like the Triumph. The new version is also really, really soft, but yeah, that's a different conversation, another comparison review anyway. So let's get into the ride first. So version 13 was one of the softest shoes I've ever put on my feet. Also wasn't the most stable. It's not unstable, just as someone who needs just a little bit of guidance. Wasn't a great option. I got the minimum miles that I needed to and moved on. Still a great shoe, just not a great shoe for me. Version 14 really changed that, and the biggest thing is this shoe has firmed up a little bit. It's still highly cushioned on the softer side, but compared to 13 is a little firmer throughout the length of the shoe. Now, part of that is, I suspect, because the midsole material might have been a little different. Companies don't tell you if they change that stuff. They just say it's Fresh Foam X, or it's this, or it's that. They don't tell you, but it feels a little firmer over here. It's also a little bit stiffer. So I think part of that comes from the new outsole rubber. There's a lot more of it than in version 13. As you can see here, a lot more coverage, a lot more like longer lines of it. And when you add more outsole rubber and thicker amounts, it typically makes the ride a teeny bit firmer and a little bit stiffer. And that's exactly what happened. What isn't as consistent with an outsole, although that actually it is, this also makes this shoe feel just a little more stable. So the two outsole pads right here, create kind of a more centered ride, which Andrew and I both agreed on, kind of felt that. Plus, things being a little bit, the midsole being just a tiny bit firmer, also makes the sidewalls be a little bit more effective. Whereas the sidewalls in the version 13 didn't do anything. They just collapsed. They're super soft. If you need a teeny bit more guidance, these are both neutral. So, and even version 14 is neutral. If you need a teeny bit more guidance, version 14 might be the better option. It's still highly cushioned. It's just a touch firmer, and that actually makes it work for someone like me, even though this still wouldn't be my first choice for a daily trainer. For me personally, I've gotten a lot more miles out of this shoe because it's actually worked really, really well. It's still really an easy run shoe. The heel bevels are awesome. They're both a little bit more posterior lateral. The foam compresses really nicely, rolls you through a not unstable midfoot. So it's not terrible, it's just really soft. So the midfoot's not super narrow. And the forefoot's great, rolls really nicely. Version 13 feels like it rolls a little easier through the forefoot. Version 14 just feels a teeny bit stiffer, not in a way that's like, oh, I feel good picking up the pace, because the soles are so soft and the compliance is high enough that this is not a shoe you're going to do anything up-tempo in. They are still best for easy miles and long runs. It's just if you want a tiny bit more firmness comparatively with a very cushioned ride, again, it's not firm. It's just comparatively. Version 14 is going to be a little bit better for you, but if you still want the softest thing that still rolls really nicely from heel to toe, but you want as much softness as possible, version 13 is going to be a better option for you. I will say, durability-wise, I do have more miles on version 14 just because I was able to run in it. Outsole, I've got some abrasion, but it hasn't been too bad. So I'd probably guess that this is going to last at average, so maybe an above average number of miles for a daily trainer. I'd probably put it more at average just because of the amount of exposed midsole foam, but it seems to be doing really well so far. And for those people that need a little more guidance, version 14 is going to be a little better, but remember, it's not a stability shoe. It's a neutral shoe for sure. Highly cushioned. The more cushioning you want, these are really, really good options. I'm really surprised that they are only 38 millimeters in the heel because it feels much higher than that, but that's a different conversation. When we go into the upper, that is also really different. So the version 13 used a knit mesh upper, which was just normal to slightly snug fit, but had a lot of stretch to it and felt really comfortable. Version 14 is different, where it's using more of an engineered mesh, but it's a wider fit overall. So I did have to kind of lock down laces to get a secure fit, but I did have plenty of room and didn't get that kind of knit compressive feeling. So that's very consistent throughout the length of this shoe. I did find the security a little bit better in version 14 just because the upper has more structure, whereas in version 13, you can see I really had to tighten those laces down to get a secure fit, or I was kind of swimming in there because there's not a lot in the way of overlays and things like that in version 13, which is version 14. Much better, locks your foot in a lot better, and I didn't have to tighten the laces as much. So if you have a little bit more wide foot, if you need, and they do have wides of these, if you need a little bit more structure in the upper, version 14 is going to be better. But if you want a really soft upper that also works really well for sockless, I wouldn't do sockless in version 14 just because of some of the additional structure. But this knit upper works really, really well for sockless running, and you're okay snugging up the upper a little bit. Version 13 is going to be better, but if you want that structure, version 14 is going to be the best option for you in terms of the fit. I will say both of them do have fairly stiff heel counters, so those people with Haglund deformities, you're going to probably have some issues with either one of these. It's not terrible, but it's just something I noticed. So those with heel sensitivities, just know they're both on the harder side. But if you like stiff heel counters, these are both really, really great. So big update, even though they look similar, where a little bit firmer, a little bit more stable, a little wider fit, but a little more structure to the upper, whereas version 13 was way softer, a little bit like kind of slightly snug, but still needed, but much more stretchy upper that still needed some security there. But again, the softest thing I've ever felt. Version 14 is still highly cushioned. It's just, I would call it, it's got, without being a stability shoe, just a little more structure and stiffness to it, whereas this is just super soft and really, really nice for those that can handle that, which I really can't, but that doesn't make it a bad shoe. So hope that helps. I'd love for you to leave in the comments if you have tried either one of these, especially if you tried both. Please let me know what you think below. I'm really curious to know what other people are experiencing. Do you agree with me? Especially tell me if you disagree, because I want to know what people are feeling. And last but not least, I always hope that this really helps you make a decision about whether either one of these are going to work for you or whether one might work better than the other.